So welcome everyone to Design Open Happy, and our guest in San Jose is going to have his first espresso in the morning because it's 7 a.m. for him, early. Thanks for waking up early, Srini, and joining us on Design Open Happy.
My pleasure, Alok.
So we'll be, Sonia Manchanda and myself, Alok Nandi, will be moderating this session with our Design Open Happy session today with our guest Srini Srinivasan, based in Silicon Valley these days, but he has been one of the most avid traveler on the planet I know. And we'll spend an hour together exploring what is behind design and some other complex nuance of our busy world.
That would be fine.
So Design Open Happy is an hour we spend together with one or two speakers, and we'll be spending this hour with Srini Srinivasan, and the concept of Design Open Happy is let's explore together from one point of view what is happening on the planet, and what is, as Sonia and myself call, what is the temperature of the planet, seen from a creative entrepreneur, seen from the journey some of our guests have been through. So Sonia, the floor is yours so that you introduce our speakers today.
Yes. So Design Open really was created to map emergence and find out what are the shifts, what's happening, talking to experts in the innovation and design space or working on the front lines. And who better than Srini in his colorful floral shirt that Thomas has already said and complimented him on, which actually is on request from me. So I'll take some of the credit. So Srini is an avid traveler. His favorite place, I'm told, is an aircraft seat because he takes his responsibilities as president of the World Design Organization very, very seriously, and therefore is the best person for us to be talking to about the temperature of the planet. Besides being president WDO, he's also an investor with Soctodamus Ventures, and he's also the chairman and CEO of Lumium. So many hats, and therefore a really good person we have here. We're very, very happy to have him here. And considering his Design Open Happy, and he's a happy person, we know that, we really want to understand and reflect a little bit lightly, however, on the value of design in the face of the pandemic, the impact of the pandemic and the value of design. What is the value of design? We've seen companies like IKEA are very quickly now embracing circular economy and ideas like that. But what about design itself? Business understands that business knows it needs to sort of navigate and change course very quickly. And in this process, does design have far greater value than it had before? It's something we're curious to know, and thank you for being here, and we'd love to know from you.
Thank you, Sonia. That was a nice brief introduction of me, as I requested. So also nice to see dear Alok, and also Thomas and my other so many friends who I know they are there, but I can't see them. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, so wherever you are. So as Sonia introduced, I have the pleasure of being at home for the almost 4 months now, 1 week short of 4 months for the first time in about 11 years. And, life has changed dramatically since the COVID has come to us to make us suffer. In terms of the design, there is a huge shift that has happened. Not all of them are happy news that I'm going to tell, even though we are talking about Design Open Happy here. But the current trend, especially for design, the value of design is perceived more in these days than in the past, because people are scrambling to see what can be done. How can I survive? The first and foremost instinct for human beings all around the globe is, how do I survive this? And during this pandemic situation, we are seeing different shades of our lives. People have lost jobs, people have been told to work from home, people are taking care. It's very common to see, even on Zoom calls, we are spending more time than the normal times when we were busy traveling, meeting. We had a better balance of life. But during these pandemic scenario, our life have changed dramatically, and design had a role, design has a role, and will have a role as we move forward. And there is no post-pandemic, in my opinion, as we see around the globe, how people are reacting to this. We have to learn to live with COVID until it becomes like a common cold or a flu. So we just kind of dismiss, you take a couple of, tablets and then just move on. You get onto your flight. That day until it comes is going to be a big challenge for us. And even non-designers are looking at how can we change our life. So the value of design is there, but the value of business for designers is having a little bit of a challenge here. As we can see, most of the design focus is now shifting to medical as well as healthcare related solutions. It is fortunate for those of us who were able to shift to the medical device, in terms of if you're a design studio or a company that is doing, there's a good example. If you look at the cosmetic giants, also liquor making companies, they quickly turned their process, because they're all alcohol based. So they quickly changed their process and products into the much needed solutions that are needed for cleaning ourselves, right? The sanitizers, different forms of sanitizers have started coming. So for them, business is booming, because people need to have them. There was a short supply. Similarly, for people who were quickly able to change their businesses into the personal protection equipment, right? PPE, they also were able to do business. But the core industries, the brick and mortar kind of companies, small and medium businesses, they are not into design, but they have products that are needed. They suffer a lot, and they are going to suffer a lot for next, maybe, in my opinion, next to 2 years is going to be a challenge for businesses all over the place. Despite the billions of trillions of dollars that are being given to people as aid across the globe, we see Japan giving money, we see Turkey, we see India, as well as US and other countries. So people are still, that's not enough, because we were running at a breakneck speed before this, before January. We were not knowing what we are doing in a realistic sense. But having stopped, and we are now looking around, so now we feel, oh my God, what have I been doing? And how is it that, possible for me to stop now? And those are the realizations that is coming and affecting us in the pandemic situation. And unfortunately, there is no quick fix for this. So I believe that, we will continue to learn how to live with the COVID and how to maneuver during this pandemic situation, so that we find happy again, and we'll find design happy also again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Srini. So you are a natural optimist, if I may say so.
I'm an eternal optimist.
Yeah, which is great. So that keeps the machine going. And I would be curious to have from your view on the planet. You have been traveling to Taiwan, to China, to India every month. You had a company in Silicon Valley, but with a unit in India and another one in Japan. And so what would be the feedback which were surprising for you coming from some of these regions? Knowing that you can't go there today, but I'm sure some people are feedbacking you.
Absolutely. So I think So the connection is happening through the digital media. So one is good because there have been a lot of noise around the fact that people who are flying or contributing to the problems of the world in terms of generating more heat and therefore temperature rising and all of those issues, especially coming from the European sectors. Right? They always want to reduce the flying. So there's been a lot of demand on people saying that we should avoid flying. So this is one opportunity for us to explore that thought of how do we work without flying. And that's what, even me, I've been learning what to do and how to do. So we have, Zoom calls or other Skype and other media, Teams, and so many different methods, Skype for business. So all of these people are able to offer the platform which enables us, just like what we are doing today, right? Part of the problem for us in a human communication is we need to lock our eyes when we talk. We need to feel the wrinkles on your forehead or the smile in your eyes. Those are the things that keeps us going. And those are the reasons why we want to go and meet in person. So if you're able to do that in a very crystal clear, technology has improved tremendously. Now I can look into your eyes and say, you are sneering, or you're smiling, or you not so happy with my answers. That kind of granularity which is given us today makes the job easier. So therefore, what we thought was impossible, how can I not go to the office and control the project, is no longer a possibility. So in our situation, so where we have a branch in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat, where the regulations come and go. They ask you to go maybe 1/3 of the people for a few days, or suddenly they say we cannot go. So we mandated. I said, no, let's not even take the risk. Work from home, unless and until somebody need to do a 3D printing. I mean, we don't have 60 3D printers to give it to people. We have 60 computers to give it to people, but not 3D printers, right? So resources is a big crunch here in my situation. So we obviously, people have to go to office when there is a dire need. And that will be taken care. We will go and make ourselves as safe as possible. And we do that. Otherwise, I think we have calls all along. Like I said, we have almost 12 to 14 hours of, Zoom calls. We work, almost twice the number of hours because of, especially different roles that we play. Same thing, I think Japan, we are a little bit drawn away. We have calls when we need, but still everybody is working from home. So I think the key point here is, in a situation like this, which was never known to us, we were all in a rut, running around like crazy. Once you stop, you start thinking, we find a way. And that's what we have done, and that's what we will continue to do. And I think I'm seeing, but some of the countries, like for example, Taiwan was really credited to handling the COVID-19 in a much better way. So they have much less cases. And they're also, I saw the first time in these last 3.5 months that they had a physical event on June 29th. I had the pleasure of being digitally there with them, and they had some 100 people, and they followed the social distancing. One chair is not occupied, and that kind of stuff. I don't know if it is still risky or not, but they seem to be doing pretty well. So some countries will start slowly doing that. It's all about your mental strength of saying, okay, I'm going to live with this. I'm going to see what's going to happen, and then find methods to avoid the occurrence of this pandemic.
Sorry.
Sonia, just before giving the floor to you, let me ask the audience to not hesitate to have your questions. We have a Q&A box there. You can put your questions there. And any comment and thoughts, you can share them in the chat box, and we'll try to make sure that we cover all the questions and the comments. Sonia, yeah.
Listening to you, Srini, as you said, this is not over, and we don't exactly know where it's going. So it's a bit like that moment, I think it's called the ignorance prior in mathematics, when the coin is tossed and we don't know whether it's going to land as a head or a tail. We are in this crazy moment in history And as you said, we were running, and suddenly we're in this pause, And in this moment, we're having to, more so as designers, change the way we respond to things. Earlier it was more deliberate. You thought a lot and then you acted on something, you prototyped, you tested. Is it a time perhaps, and I'm asking you again because we're also in the design practice space, is it a time when you experiment a lot more? Be a little bit more daring than usual, faster than usual, put something out there, see how the world responds, see how it works out. How do we sort of reimagine our own role as design people, and lead by example, not so much be the advisors, because nobody has the answers,
Absolutely.
and least of all us. So in that scenario, how should we reimagine our role? What do you think from where you stand?
You're absolutely right, Sonia. I think designers have, I've always believed that designers have a better responsibility for changing the world, right? Because as designers, people come to designers with a problem. Okay? Maybe they have a potential solution in their mind, but they just want the designers to explore and come with a solution that is most optimal given the environment, given the cost structure, given the time structure of when that solution is needed, and also the demography, as to who will be the user. So these are the key elements of any product or service that is being introduced. So therefore, more than before, designers have always been looking at a problem in a different sense, and they were taking the responsibility, they were taking the mantle, though the recognition has been much less in a company wide scenario, but they are the ones who create windows of opportunities for businesses, but for services, for the governments, for the policymakers, right? So that's what the designers are capable of doing. That's in the DNA of the designers. So what has changed now is designers are also of the opinion, though they have an idea in their mind, they're also known to ask questions, and questions. Not that we don't know what we are going to do, but we want to clarify our client's mind so that we don't end up doing something assuming that that's what they wanted and get into a situation which is not the right and ideal situation of product or services or whatever. So therefore, today in this panic scenario, what designers are doing and need to do is sympathize with the situation a lot more than what we are used to, and take that risk, because people are stunned, to say the least, right? People are stunned. They have no idea. If we are working in the unknown in the past, today we are working in unknown times unknown. So therefore, somebody has to take the risk, and somebody who's solving the problem is the person who can easily take the risk. So in terms of offering, I know in the US, many companies, the design studios especially, unlike in the past, they are saying, okay, what is the situation? And we come with a solution, because otherwise designers don't like to sit idle. So therefore, it's no longer the question of money and the purchase orders and what we're going to do, but we want to keep ourselves engaged, and the inner desire to contribute somehow, somewhere, we want to contribute to the world, to betterment of this world. So therefore, our responsibility as designers has increased manyfold. I've said in my previous, other speeches also, the role of designer is no longer just for designing an award-winning product or a service. Today, the role of a designer is more socially responsible in terms of protecting the planet, in types of materials that we are using, in types of processes that we are doing, and eliminating, again, that's where you get into the circular economy and the products and the material that we are using. Is it really needed? Can we make it beautiful even though the material is biodegradable and such, right? So now the responsibility of designers have become even more looking at how do we stop this pandemic, even though we are not medical practitioners and we are not doing some solutions to this pandemic.
I love that you say responsibility. It's currently a word that I've also fallen in love with, this whole responsibility. You know,
That's right.
and I don't think anybody has it more than designers, although we were not, maybe we didn't have the language of the business people. But this ability to respond to whatever the circumstance. And I think we should maybe, like what you're saying, we should put it forward far more confidently, far more strongly, far more
True.
boldly, far more creatively. So yeah, so I think that itself is the takeaway and the call from what you're saying for designers worldwide. I think it's quite interesting because it's not
Yes.
about doing what you're asked to do or getting the job done. It's about taking responsibility, and
Absolutely.
just creating things out there.
Yeah, just to add to that, Sonia, if you look at the recent emergence of either the PPE equipment or any kind of solutions, a lot of design companies have come forward with no one asking them to do anything
Yes.
across the globe. Across the globe, I've seen some of our WDO, people, especially regional advisors, passport members. They come with very good self, own made respirators. I know companies in the San Diego area. They've come with their own PPE product. I know companies in India. Um, they have come out with very good products, all the need of the hour. Right? We have done the same thing at Lumium. So we have come up with products which are addressing the needs of the community which is suffering. So we all have changed because we wanted to contribute. We were more empathetic to our customer. We are not, money is needed, but not a concern. Therefore, there is a lot more responsibility coming from us as a design community around the world. I'm seeing this happening. I'm very happy to reflect on this platform that designers have shown more responsibility and maturity during the tough times.
Now, jumping on that question of responsibility, as you are in connection with many stakeholders, what are your thoughts about policymakers? That's a tough one, I know.
No, I think it's nothing is tough for us. We are managing the global issues through WDO. I think it's a very very good question. The policy makers, if you ask me, especially the design policy makers across the globe, at best are struggling right now. If you look at the governments or the agencies that we are talking to with respect to creating policy related conferences, be it in Taipei or be it in Lille or be it in Morocco or be it in India, in the own city, Bengaluru. So people are not able to put their thoughts to how do we create a policy when we are scrambling. When you do the policy, you need to really take a step back and look at the future. The future canvas is now blocked by this, current the black screen of pandemic. So therefore, it's very difficult, for people to see beyond this current situation of a black screen impairing their vision. So to me, the policy makers are going to be ad hoc today. It's a quick fix. It's a band-aid kind of fix today that will happen in most of the places. Okay, there could be exceptions. There are countries which have handled it much better, and they have already done a policy maybe just recently, last 1 or 2 years. They quickly tweak around to becoming more pandemic related changes to the policies. But otherwise, the policy makers, in my mind, are really still not ready to come out with anything because they are still grappling this problem. And then slowly it will emerge, as I said, in the next 1 or 2 years when the pandemic becomes a normal thing for us. Oh, yeah, he had COVID. I mean, today people talk, at one time, cancer was considered to be a very, very bad disease. People will whisper, but now, no longer. Oh, yeah, this guy had that cancer. What are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. I'm going for my chemo, which is a normal scenario. People don't get panic anymore because there are enough cases to prove that they have come out of it. So therefore, we will get to that similar situation with COVID also. I'm very positive on that. It's a matter of time. And while we are doing that, we are also in the danger of pushing the solution too soon. That's the scrambling. The policymakers, we talk about policymakers saying, should we introduce this drug or not introduce a drug? That's a policy decision for the governments, for the presidents and mayors and governors and whatnot. So how do we handle this while thousands of people are dying on one end? Do we allow that drug to come, even though there could be a risk of maybe something else coming in next 5 years? That's the situation. Therefore, it's very appropriate to say that people are not really spending a lot of time on a general policy making at this point in time. This is what I feel.
Okay. Yeah, Sonia.
Okay. In this moment, when things have come to a standstill, really, in terms of, like you're saying, in terms of policy, etc., it's come to a standstill. For people asking if that they have a new business idea, a new prospect, etc., they want to look for investment. Somebody's asking that question. What do you think they should be doing at this moment? Because everything is about COVID when things have come to a standstill. What about everything else? The fourth industrial revolution is supposed to be an opportunity and a time of great peril and promise. We are seeing the peril. We are seeing the perilous thing that has happened because of all of us traveling all over the world and, something getting created. God knows where it got created, and now it's spreading like wildfire. Should we just be stopping and dealing with this alone? Or should we be thinking about, I know in our work, for instance, yes, we did respond to the COVID scenario and did some work for the UN, but at the same time, we are working with a startup that's working in the agriculture space, looking at hydroponics farms and actually delivering vegetables to the design barn for people to come and pick up from here. So there is that good work also happening. So somebody is asking a question about that. If you have a good idea and a relevant idea, maybe truly a good, meaningful idea, which is the promise that this time may hold to reimagine, rethink, reshape our world. What do you do with that idea? Should you move it forward? Would you find investors for it? Should you go ahead and develop it? Or is it only all about COVID, is the question really.
Right. So much to the dislike of my investment community around the globe, investor community is like a herd. Not all of them, but generally the trend is like a herd mentality. If the leadership goes one direction, maybe it is virtual reality, or it is AI, or agri-tech, or a health tech. So we see that the others flock because of the propensity to take risk in a business venture is the main reason, because they're all on borrowed time and borrowed money. So when we say they're investors, you have a venture capital firm or whatever, they get money from somebody else.
Right.
And they are answerable to that somebody else, certain portion of return, right? Certain attractive return. That's one of the reasons why the propensity to take risk is largely governed by the leadership. So therefore, they feel like, oh, if such and such a company or a person is saying this domain will take off, I want to be there too. Because anytime innovation is...
Where are they doing this now? They typically have buckets. There are buckets. So what are those buckets looking like just now? Just curious. Because
I'm coming to that. So I think there is, at the same time, there's also one segment of the same community which thinks diametrically opposite. So which means they think when everything else is going west, I want to go east. So it's also difficult to find the people who want to go in the opposite direction, but that's the one that you need to go after, especially to Abhijit Sen. So if there is something that, which is meaningful for our existence in this planet, then obviously we need to find that person. Of course, the job becomes more difficult because in the normal sense, you have people who are, today, if you take the example, if you bring the buzzwords like, IoT or big data or cloud security, AI, VR and AR. These are current trends or the buckets where people think we can invest, because they are all tools that are going to help us navigate our life in this crazy race that we have been doing until we are stopped. So therefore, any tool that helps us to save a few minutes, few bites of our life, we want to invest in that, because that's a tool that, we are all today around me. I have 6 devices, right? I was not having a cell phone 20 years ago. So that's the progress that the human race has gone into. So therefore, the investment also goes in making people's life better. But if this currently the trend is, if you are going to come with a healthcare solution, maybe you'll get funded in a week's time. Maybe there is a government money, there is a private money, there is a lot of social money. People want to help. But if you're coming out with a solution for focusing on some other domain, right, agri-tech or fashion, for example, we all need fashion. We need good clothes. We need good life, good equipment. But if somebody is going to say, I'm going to do this, who's going to buy this product today? No, the questions become tougher. But as I said earlier, I am an eternal optimist. So there is always a possibility that you will find any entrepreneur who's looking for one source of money that among the millions of people who are in the investment community. So my advice to Abhijit is keep the hope, keep checking, keep asking people. You will find that one person who puts his money on you, and good luck.
So, Srini, jumping on that, and both for Abhijit and also Ankit, how can design help them in finding the small, interesting signal? Because when we talk a lot about design, we say we are listening, we are trying to identify interesting signals, which can then show patterns of interesting stuff. You are both active in the design world, in the funding world, in the education world. How can we help sharing some insights which were, I would say, happy surprise for you?
Okay. Most of us are well aware of technology that is happening around. Even though you may not be a technologist, you may not be an engineer, or you may not, but the use of technology is prevalent for decades in our society. So we certainly know when the new iPhone comes, the person who knows much less about technology is very happy, and he goes and buys his phone, okay, whatever phone. So people do understand technology that helps them. Why do they understand technology? Because it helps them. Even in the agriculture sector, they don't till that anymore with the cows, right? They are going after tractors. And they know how the new irrigation methods work, because they know that that's going to make their job easier. So people understand one thing: how can I make my life easier? What can do better for me than during my father's days? Or how can I create more time for me so that I can do other things? It's just not wanting to be sitting idle, but how can I do other things which will be much more useful for me and for everybody around? So that is the first instinct that we need to appeal to. Does it going to change your life? Yes. How? And then, because of not knowing where to go, that's where design comes into opening the eyes of the people in terms of the form factor, or the beautification, or the color and the touch and the feel. All of these brings the design elements come into play, because we want people to first get attracted visually, right? Once you get visually, it's like a human race, right? We all look at a person. First thing is the eyes. If the eyes meet and you have a sparkle there, then you want to talk more with that person. Not necessarily your life partner, just even as a friend, or as a neighbor, or somebody that you're going by. If there is an eye contact, which means we are appealing to the sense of vision. So people look at that first, and then they feel attracted to that, then they start looking at, oh, this will change my life, in such and such a way. So therefore, designers and design has a fantastic role in bringing those technology and the value of life to the forefront by making the product or services very attractive. So that's the role that we have as designers.
So Thomas,
Well,
sorry.
yeah, Sonia.
Asking you, among the proliferation of many, how do we determine what are the essential devices we need today? There is a lot of noise out there. And he's also asking additionally, it's not useful if you're all chasing trends that are mostly commercial outcomes, products, technologies, etc.
Okay, so this is a very personal trait of people. Among us, in our own families, we might have seen, or you will see if you watch the trend, some of us are like gadget freaks. The minute the new gadget comes, we are running out of the gate to buy the product, and you are not happy after 3 months, you throw that and get another product. So some of us are curious in our mind. It goes with the personality. So there's nothing, there is no list saying you must have this or you. I have friends who don't have a smartphone even today. I have friends who don't have any WhatsApp or Facebook, but they're very communicative. Don't get me wrong, they're very communicative and they're happy with the minimalistic approach in life. So it's all about your philosophy of life. So how do you want to lead and what makes you happy? Having things, maybe people have a wrong notion that by having money or material things will make you happy. But oftentimes we find we don't have that, because human mind, in my answer is a very inquisitive creature. It seeks what you don't have, and when you have that, it seeks further of what you don't have, and it's never ending. It's never ending.
You're saying pull back. So Thomas, pull back before you buy something and ask, will it make me happy? Right? If it's going to make you happy, then get it. If you think that, if you're trying to justify a function that it will sort of do, then don't get it.
Yeah, see, oftentimes, the one of the things, we always do, and I always do is, just to give you an example, I told you earlier in our sound checks and other stuff, I'm still using a MacBook Air, which was bought in 2010. So it's like 10 years. It's stretching, because the OSS cannot be operating system cannot be upgraded to the latest one. I cannot have a fancy background like you guys have. Okay, I have more fancy background here, but I'm very happy. I'm super happy. The keyboard works, everything works. So it's a question of, everybody says, oh, in fact, my friends always, kid me, especially those who are in different. This is really, you still have a very old phone. I said, yeah, I'm happy with this, because I don't need to change until and unless this dies or malfunctions to the extent that it is bothering me that I can't take the important calls. Then obviously I make a change. I mean, this is my personal choice, right? But there are others who they will just buy the next phone because they feel that it's not about the affordability. It's just the mindset that I need to have the latest gadget because I'm curious. So it's not wrong. It's just a curiosity that you're trying to fulfill by buying that particular gadget. So if it makes you happy, that's cool.
So Thomas is asking also, how much quiet time do you take every day away from device and digital technology? Knowing that you are under Zoom fatigue pressure, maybe?
Right.
And but his question is focused on to be calm, to think, and to find balance in life. And I think that's a super good angle where we need to think about and elaborate.
Yeah, I heard different monikers for me. People have told different kind of things. As people know, I have no jet lag. I have no need for sleep and all this stuff. But all of this is some sort of your inner. I don't do any meditation. I don't do any yoga or anything. But it's some sort of your balance of life comes by itself. And I have believed that you don't need to say, oh, look at the clock, I need to go to the gym, I need to do this. I don't believe in that kind of balance of life in my current situation. I'm not prescribing things to anybody, so don't get me wrong, and you don't do your exercise and then start saying, hey, where is Srini? I want to just blame him because, because of him I have this problem or that problem. I actually take it by the way things fall in my place. While like I said, I'm an eternal optimist. I'm also uh, don't worry too much. I don't worry about yesterday. I worry about maybe not too much worry about tomorrow. I just take things as it comes. So in fact, my balance of life in terms of my quiet time is I just doesn't matter if it is 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 90 degrees. If I find the time between afternoon 2 and 3, I will go for a walk or a bike ride. Doesn't matter, but I need the time, so I just kind of do that, because I may be having a 4 o'clock Zoom call and I would have just finished my 1:30 Zoom call and had a quick bite to eat. So it changes. One thing I know is it doesn't upset me personally to change the habit, change the routine on a given day for a given need. So today, if you say, yeah, we need to have a call at 4 a.m., I'm happy. No problem, because I can always find a sleep next time. So for me, I don't like the routine of saying, okay, if it is 6 a.m., I have to go for a walk, or if it is 8 a.m., I have to go for my tennis, or whatever, right? I mean, I used to have a routine. If it was 5 a.m. on summertime, on Saturday, I used to go to golf, but now I have not. Again, the point here is you should be flexible enough, to go and do what makes you like. For me, if I take the rough calculation, probably I have about 3 hours during the day for not doing Zoom calls or not watching TV or not writing emails. Maybe at a stretch, maybe it's 2 hours.
So we have our friend from Brazil, from Curitiba, who's asking, it's Gandhi in your blood? How would you react to that one? Sergio.
Gandhi, I know. Hey, Sergio, great to see you, man. Brother Elephant. So I think I have Gandhi, but similarities stop with my head being involved as Gandhi. Otherwise, I have, I guess, born in India and going through the, normal routine of life in terms of listening to a lot of philosophies from your grandparents and parents and fellow uncles and aunts. Probably there is a little bit of Gandhian in every Indian. Only thing is you may bring it in a different shade. So for me, other than the look, people have told me that, look like Gandhi or whatever, but I'm nowhere near Gandhi. So other than the looks, maybe.
That's good.
Abhijit is asking, do you think that the R&D focus in terms of funding in different domains of design will increase after its value realization during this pandemic?
Again, it's a too broad a question, so we need to narrow it down. See, for example, in traditionally the companies used to do an R&D, which will be anywhere ranging between 8 to 15%, right? But if there is a pharma company, that becomes much higher because they spend their entire life doing research. Right? First research, and then some development. So collectively, they probably will spend, much more than maybe 20. I don't have data here, but they spend much larger compared to the other product and technology companies when they spend like, 12 to 15% of the time. So based on the product or the technology you're developing for COVID or not for COVID, as I said earlier, the policymakers are in a hurry. So what is beneficial? Saving some lives and having some other little discomforts later on? Is it better, or finding that no discomfort will happen, but it will cost another few hundred thousands of death? It's a question that you need to balance out. It's a political question. It's also a loaded question. So we need to find the right balance based on who you're appeasing, and then take an answer on that.
On the question of balance, somebody else has asked about this whole balance between need and greed, and it's about mindset, and how do we differentiate between need and greed, and a shift in mindset in the present moment. on my side, I want to say something. I noticed that you say happy a lot. It's like the Beatles in all their songs had love, the word love a lot. So I think in terms of mindset, what we're learning from you is this whole, if you're ready to be happy and be that optimist, a lot can get done.
You will be happy. Despite all troubles, you can find happiness.
Yes. So this need and greed question, what do you think? This mindset shift in the present moment.
Okay, being an optimist, I have a different answer. Being greedy is not a crime, and being greedy sometimes or most of the time for the right reasons pushes you and excels, in a situation. Meaning that part of the good greed is that you are inquisitive, you're curious, and you are not going to give up even though the need is met, right? In terms of excellence, in terms of product. Like, for example, if you got a 60 percentage of marks, that's good enough to get you a good college, good admission, whatever. If you get, say, $80,000, that's good enough for you. The need is met. Your basic rent, food, transportation, and some entertainment is all met. But if you're not greedy, then you don't want to, you cannot progress. Like, without any, you have to have that inner desire. So that can be termed as greedy. But the bad side of greed is, even though you are at the detriment of others, if you're going to step on, and maybe that part of greed is not a good one. But greed itself is not a bad trait to have, because greed in my mind is more curiosity, and you want to be not stopping at what you are good at, but you want to excel.
I'm going to take that answer home for my daughter. I like it. It's a nice complexity, simplicity, Indian kind of fuzzy love, which is quite nice. I like good greed as an idea. Thank you.
What is good also about what you're raising is that let's stop looking in binary modes, black and
Exactly.
white, need and greed, but systems are much more complex, and we need to look at more the spectrum and the nuance. And there I see the value of design helping us to break that 0-1 way of looking at stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at the designers as a community, even it happens in Lumium or other companies that I've been advising. I'm sure, Sonia, you can reflect to this, right? Customer has given you a brief, you're satisfied, and the customer is happy, but you are not happy. To me, that's greed, because you want to really do even more, because you are not satisfied with that footprint of a solution that you worked hard to meet the other aspects of the product. You are happy to a point, but then you say, not this one, at the detriment of business sometimes. But we are greedy, saying we want to come with the most optimal and the best solution. We all do it on a daily basis. So that's the way, the design fraternity has never been satisfied. It's like, film producers, art people. So they are not, if you are in a mathematician, you can say, yeah, this is all formula based and I can only get to this. But for the creative people, it's never an end. It's just that you are going to stop at some point in time, but otherwise you can improve it and continue to improve and continue to improve. You are never happy with your painting. You're never happy with your, other creative artwork that you're doing, sculptures or whatever. Even if it is ready, tomorrow is unveiling, you'll say, let me just do that little final touch here, because that's very natural, very normal for us.
Thank you, Kajal, for that question. Over to you, Alok.
Yeah, we have a great question from Kalim. Kalim is asking, revision of ideas is playing an important role in understanding a very important dimension of the inevitable transformation of human communicative exchange. And he's asking, how have you used the idea of asynchronous design creatively to operate a worldwide network? So I guess, Kalim, you are alluding to World Design Organization and how you, Srini, are playing with your relationships to time. You said you're ready to wake up at 4 a.m. and whatever. So we are curious to know more about that.
I want.
Thanks,
Alok,
Kalim, for the question.
Alok, if you don't mind, repeat the question, or is it in the, because it's too long, a complex sentence. I just needed to
let me
listen one more time.
let me reread the question. How have you used the idea of asynchronous design creatively to operate a worldwide network?
Okay.
I think I'd say, Srini, you should also talk about the conference you were telling us about, which is a 24-hour conference.
Oh, okay, sure.
Synchronous and yet synchronous. It's very interesting.
Okay, so see, as far as the managing the global network of designers or policymakers or cities and government, uh, I generally, love a lot of responsibilities as a person. I just don't mind taking the responsibilities, and I just go with the asynchronous part of it is that I can jump in from one to another quickly. After this call, I can get onto a business call where we are evaluating a proposal for looking at whether that's the risk-taking elements. I can get on that call, and following that, I can get on to another call, which is design review of some other projects that we are doing. So I don't know, but some people have this, and I guess I'm gifted or I'm fortunate to have this kind of stuff where we can typically switch between contexts. I have no problem. I believe that comes with the practice. If you've been doing just one thing, then you're always scared to move away from that one thing, whatever you're doing, one channel, right? But for me, I've never been in that mode ever since I know myself. Maybe 5-6 years ago, I've always been like even talking about school. People say different skills are needed for different skills. I used to be in the, I mean, you can do different things is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say it more to brag myself. So talking about global organization or talking about it, two things that have changed dramatically for World Design Organization with the pandemic. Earlier in Hyderabad, when I took over as a president, I made a commitment that I will, not knowing at that time, I'm not a prophecy sayer, but I did not know at that time. I mentioned that we are going to take WDO because most of the organizations, maybe global or local, they don't really go to the membership. Right? The membership goes to them in a very general sense, right? You just are. But I said, I will make WDO come to our membership, our communities. So which is what, fortunately or unfortunately, the pandemic has helped where we actually talk to most of our community on a global level. Specifically, we have spoken to communities in different parts of the world. We choose a day, allocate maybe 1.5 or 2 hours, and talk to them just like we talk. So the topics are again not determined by me, but I'm asking, what is it that bothering you, or how are you taking care of this, and what is your government doing, and how can we help? Can we create an event of awareness about COVID or non-COVID? So those are things that really comes pretty natural for us. And I have an excellent board that supports me. If I want to have them come on 3 a.m., they will come because I'm available at 3 a.m. So they're happy to come and reciprocate. So together we have an excellent network that we are able to make them. So today the people's value perception of what WDO doing has greatly changed due to the positive side of COVID is, we are able to reach out them. Previously, if I want to talk to you, Sonia, I say, oh no, I'm busy this week. Next week, how about next week? No, I'm busy next week. I'm in Brussels. Then third week, it kind of keeps on seesawing, right? Yo-yo going from here to there. But then we are able to meet today. I can. Yeah. So today it helps. That's a positive side. So we are doing that, and we are also able to reach out to communities and the governments to see if they are able to bring certain messages to the certain segments of the society. Not sure if I've answered your question completely, Alok.
Yeah, it's Kalim's question, and I'm sure that you are bringing that back to the notion of mindset, which is helping us. I see that we still have some questions, and we are already finishing nearly the hour. So
but I'm happy to answer questions questions, no problem.
Great.
So if you're...
So what I propose is we still take 1 or 2 questions, and then for those of you who have raised questions, we'll send them to Srini, and when Srini has some time, maybe he'll be okay to answer to those questions. And will be by...
Just on June 29th, I had a call with among the multiple globe trotting on Zoom. I had one of the panels for packaging in Monterrey, Mexico. So there, I was so happy because we did not limit the questions. We said we want to run out of questions. We are happy to stay on, and it was so nice to be able to answer. Most of the time, we say, "Oh, last question," because we are only 2 minutes. That's something which I probably don't like, because people are coming to listen to us and they want to know more. So it's not a problem if we have the time, and maybe during these times we have time.
Great. So shall we take the question by Anonymous? How to explain design for 3 age category? Number 1, 5 years child. Number 2, 3 years man. Number 3, 60 years old person.
What is the second one? 5 years and second one?
30 years man.
30 years, okay.
Though I would say 60 years is maybe not old, but that's another debate. Let's have...
Okay. I mean, old is just a nomenclature. We can say 5 years young, 30 years young, 60 years young. We can change it, right? Absolutely.
Yep. So how do we talk design about that?
I think the companies are already talking to these audiences on a daily basis. If you look at the toy makers or the educative tools, education-related tools that are being addressed to 5-year-old children across the globe, cutting the barriers of language, design reaches to them. There's excellent examples of different toys, different puzzles. We want to shape their mind into what is in their mind. If you go to the primary schools in, not even primary, the preschools in the US, they have excellent opportunity to find and fine-tune the child's desire of what we want to do. Unlike in some other societies, we say, "Oh, I've been a doctor, so you should become a doctor," kind of scenario. And I mean, they kind of force fit, by bringing a doctor toys to the children, or bring some building blocks because you're an engineer, civil engineer, building houses. So we subconsciously, we want our children to do things that we like, and that trend is changing, fast changing in every part of the world. It was not there in certain parts of the world, but now we are able to differentiate, what we want and what the children want. So there are enough tools in my mind. The difficult one is the 30-year young adult, because there are two sides of this. One is a successful 30-year-old person who found happiness in their lives, in their jobs, in their life partners, in the surroundings they live. And there's also 30-year-old people who are not satisfied because they could not achieve what they wanted to. And the reasons and circumstances are vastly different between the happy 30-year and the unhappy 30-year. So there are ways to find, and then we need to send them to this direction or that direction based on what I said earlier, the need and the greed, good greed and need. And talking about the 60 plus are either satisfied achievers. The level of achievement is not to be looked at here. I always say, if you look at the postman, people say, "Oh, is it?" I talked to the postman who comes and delivers mail in my office in Palo Alto a few years ago, and I said, "Oh, and he happens to be an Indian gentleman." So I said, I started talking to him in Hindi, and I said, how do you feel? And we've been. So he said, "Oh, I'm very, very happy. I spent last 42 years delivering mail. I know the entire city. I know the streets, if you tell me, and I've made enough money. So I have my 2 daughters married, and I have grandchildren, and Right now, I'm going to take my time to go around the world and, probably go back to India. I've not been to India in 10, 12 years. So I'm going to go back and spend some time to learn, a few things that I had not had the time. I think typically the American life is like that, right? People at 65, in a context here, maybe in India and other countries, we will not buy, we will not invest in a new car after you retired from your job, which is 60 years in India, most of them. But here in the US, at 65 years, the couple is happy to sell their home, buy an RV, spending $150,000, and go around the globe because they never had the time when they were 30 some. So I think it's a perspective in life of how to find happiness. And there are also people at 60 who are thinking that they are 30. For example, people like me. Age is not a big deterring factor for me. As long as I have the energy, I will find another startup. I will find another new way to do things. Maybe after October 2021, I'll find something else to do because I will be hanging my boots or gloves as the president of World Design Organization. So it's all a relative way of looking at design. One of my relatives at 67, 66, she started painting. Amazing painting, And now she's very energetic. She wants to go and set up an exhibition. She lives in Mumbai. She wants to set up an exhibition, and people come and buy the product. And she's super happy. At late in her life, she's able to find the passion that drove us to creating the new beautiful paintings.
It is a question of mindset.
Yeah. Bye, Heather. It was nice to have you. One of my friends, she says she's going to go. So, okay. What was the other questions? Yeah. So I saw some question by Padmanabhan. I see. Yeah, Raghunath said. Yeah.
Today is the tomorrow we did not plan or design yesterday. So going forward, Srini, what do you advise to the fresher who is graduating today, a startup who is designing a new product, and a person who's going to start retirement? How can they design their life product to create happiness and success for them and the community?
Okay, excellent, Pat. Thank you for being here. I love it. I think it was somewhat similar to the other question asked in a different way. A 5-year-old was a 5-year young, 30-year young, and 60-year young.
Yeah.
To me, when we step out of a certain phase in our lives, be it going to the hostel when you finish your high school, or going from an elementary school to a middle school, or even changing from, we are all in the armed forces, we keep changing every 2 years, 3 years. You are always looking at a white canvas with nothing painted, or open wilderness where you don't know what else is going to come. Is there going to be a tiger that's going to come and attack you? Or you're going to have a nice little pet dog that's going to, shake his tail and come and, stay near you to become friends. So every stage of our life, we go through these fears, or as I say in the past, I've said this, butterflies in the stomach, where we don't know what's going to happen. The same thing happens, you graduate out of your college, you have a master's degree in design or technology, whatever, and you have certain ideas of what you want to do. But you still don't know whether that's going to happen or not happen. Somehow you land on a job, then you go out and you find a nice person to marry or settle or live together or whatever, different opportunities. That time, again, you don't know what's going to happen. Right? In a traditional scenario, you get married and then you say like, wow, how are we going to shape our lives? We still don't know, right? You just only know the person to a certain degree, but we're still not knowing what else is going to happen. Same thing, you're going to have a startup. I had a brilliant idea. I'm not going to get money yet, but I'm putting my risk in there. I'm starting to do something. And after getting money and the greed drives you to making more products, more money, and maybe there's an exit. Fast forward to the postman example I said. I'm retiring day after tomorrow. There's a big, huge burden of, emptiness in my mind. People always say empty nesters, right? When the kids go out of the house to college, we say, oh, it's an empty nesters. So all of this tells you how you are going to emotionally deal with that situation. The opportunity comes in front of you to see which route do I take? How do I find happiness? This is all about finding happiness. And happiness is found if you want to find happiness. And happiness is found not just in money, but in keeping your mind in a very fertile ground. If your mind is not fertile, then you don't sow the seeds of your future, of your thought, of your wanting to do certain things. That's where we need to do. Of course, Pat's questions of what's going to happen today, especially when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, is more relevant to the current era where we are living with the COVID scenario. It's a little bit uncertain, and it's a little bit more challenging than the graduates of last year or previous year. I do certainly appreciate the difficulty we are going in. But if you have to apply to 20 companies, I would say today you have to apply to maybe 100 companies. But still, you will find a way to get yourself busy with something or the other. If you cannot find a job, anyway, you're not getting money, but you can do other things that can make you happy and do something that somebody wanted. Maybe there is a way to find somebody will want to engage you because you did something without asking. So those are opportunities for us to do. Yes, Alok.
So in a way, you answered to your brother from Brazil. He was asking, what is your vision of the role of design after the pandemic situation? And what you shared was, in a way, an answer to that, I would assume.
Yeah, I'll give a quick answer. So yeah. I think the role of design is going to be more emphasized during the COVID and beyond the COVID, because people who have been used to taking for granted, now they have to redefine life. They have to come with new methods to make them happy. And design has a very, very important role in reshaping our universe in a different way.
Great. We are journeying towards the end of this session. So I would like to thank you, Srini, and all the attendees for spending this hour with us, Sonia and myself. And I would like also to thank the spread team, which makes sure that everything runs smoothly. So thank you, Srini. Thank you, all of you, for spending time with us. And it will be good for you to tell us a last word for closing this session about education.
Sure. So education is a way we get shaped in our lives. Maybe formal education, maybe informal education, right? And coming to design education in particular, again, some people go to design schools. A lot of designers don't go to design schools, but they learn from their life experiences. So therefore, education is an important tool in our lives as we look at it. And particularly for the design education, there are different aspects of how do we teach a young person the basics of design. So we actually are interesting discussion is going on in the future of design education with Don Norman and very eminent world design educators. So that conference is still going on. So hopefully that will get published in the next few weeks. I'm fortunate to be one of them. So we have 15 people around the globe discussing what types of design education is appropriate for the 21st century and beyond. And there we are also discussing what is relevant to the universities which are standalone design schools, and there are other large universities such as MIT or Stanford or other universities where design is one of the schools. So it's a very interesting topic that is going. So I think in general, education is what makes us in the beginning, and then later on experiences take over. So we don't have to be worried about not having an education as long as you are able to bring your life experiences to shape you and guide you throughout the life.
Thanks. And Thomas is adding education is just a foundation for life, which is, I would say, a fantastic closing for this session if we are
Yes.
okay for ending this. And Sonia, a last word before we thank Srini and we thank all the attendees.
No, yeah. So for me, it's incredible that we get all these insights because again, it goes back to emergence. It's a time of complexity where you have the this and the that, and you need to figure out which way to go. And in that time, it's these insights that we're getting, that restore our optimism and sharpen our focus on the way forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you, Sonia,
Thank,
and thank you, Spread Design. So it was a pleasure to be seeing you digitally and also meeting with a lot of my friends and the new friends that I'm making through this session. Thank you again. It was my pleasure. So you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I will look forward to being on this sometime in the future.
Thanks. And for all of you who came, just be part of the Facebook group or the LinkedIn group where we'll see some of these conversations continuing. And we'll send a mail to all of you. Thanks, Srini. Thanks, Sonia. And have a nice day to Srini in the Valley. Good evening to Sonia and all the Spread team in Bangalore and around. And happy days to all the attendees. Have a good moment and don't forget to drink water.
That's
See you.
good.
Bye.
Thank you. See you.